thank you guys for coming to the interview. I read Futurewords 3 and it was really cool. All of you had a lot of really interesting stories and like really interesting characters and dynamics. But I am going to start with Anne because I also edit stories, so I'm really interested to hear about your perspective. What was it like editing stories from multiple authors with like such different styles and different plot lines and everything? What was that like?
It made it very entertaining to me and very interesting, kept my interest because everything was so different all the time.
Yeah,
And I told Sharon after I read the stories, I said, Sharon, the caliber of Brick Cave's authors is amazing. It's a very solid collection. It really is. I think anybody would be pleased to read any of the stories in there, but as a group, it's solid.
for sure. Yeah. Did you have any like challenges with editing like any of the stories or
Well,
just
just each story needs to be approached differently because they're going to need a different type or amount of editing. That's all.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
And
About, sorry,
what
go
was it,
ahead.
Joe? When I read your story, I laughed out loud. I remember that part because there are a couple really funny scenes in there.
Good. That was the point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was surprised. I hadn't read any of your work in quite a while, and I said, oh, "This is Joe. Wow, it's great." All of them were great, but all of them they were all very different. I think
Yeah,
there's going to be something for everyone in this collection.
for sure. Thank you. Um, well, that was all of the questions I had for you. But um, yeah, that's really interesting because I've only ever writ like edited manuscripts from like one author at a time. So I thought it would be like really difficult and challenging to like tackle multiple of them in such a
Well,
short
I
time.
don't do them all the same time. I
Yeah.
read them through one after another, and then I edited them one after another. So I wasn't
Okay.
mixing or anything, and that helps with focus too. If you just stay with one project at a time and then
Yeah,
move
for
on to
sure.
the next one.
Yeah. That's super cool. Thank you.
Hmm.
Um, Bruce, really nice
Yes.
shoes. Was really funny. Uh, what inspired really nice shoes? Why leprechauns in Ireland?
Don't give it
Uh,
away.
it grew out of a couple of other authors' stories about magical or paranormal creatures, and I thought, wouldn't it be funny if there was this whole world, but things are divided and the creatures are on reservations, or there's a whole organization whose job it is to control these magical things and make sure that the normal people don't find out about them.
Yeah, that's
And
super
then
cool.
I don't know, it just got to be funny. I think a
Well, the
uh,
characters were
irritable
funny.
werewolf and a OCD vampire make a
Yeah,
good
the
pair.
characters were funny. In
Yeah,
the opening scene where they're like bickering with each other, it's like it was great. So you could
they
tell
definitely have.
they were buddies.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was the part of the idea.
Yep. It's kind of a buddy story. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the intent. I
Yep.
mean, they're partners. I mean, work partners and buddies. They watch each other. So yeah, it was.
Did you like have the punchline planned out, or did it just come naturally while writing?
What, really nice shoes?
Yeah.
Oh no, that was a big part of it.
Okay.
Right from the beginning, it's like, okay, we have to have a hook for, what the leprechauns can do. And as he pointed out, nobody's going to go to a casino run by leprechauns.
Yeah.
So the Native American model doesn't work. But boy, they can make really nice shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That story was just like it cracked me up. I couldn't stop giggling throughout the whole thing. And
Well,
I
good.
actually like I
That's
lived
what
in
I hope.
Ireland for a couple of months. So when I started it and I realized where it was set, I was like, I love this. This is great. Um, so yeah, that one was fantastic. I loved really nice shoes. Um, Adrian, you wrote Never in Anger.
Correct.
This one, it was definitely a pivot from Really Nice Shoes, a very
Yeah.
big pivot. Um, how do you like? I was really interested in how your process is for naming the characters and like the species and everything, because in like sci-fi stories, the different planets and everything, they all have really unique names, and I'm really curious to hear about like your process in that.
Well, part of it was just the classic don't have two that start with the same letter, don't, keep it from being confusing. But that particular planet was settled by humans long, long ago, got cut off from human culture, got rediscovered. So they have their old culture, which includes a lot of the paranormal stuff that is particular to that planet. And then the new culture, all the people who are coming in because it's so lush and wonderful and like a new Earth. And in that universe, Earth is kind of done. But as far as names and cultures, I was trying. This is a spin-off from the Spider's Word universe, so I had done a lot of world building already. And they're in a town that it is mostly people, it's set in a town where most of those people do not have the paranormal skills that the out-of-towners, the Onoi, have. And so we've got City Mouse, Country Mouse, different naming schemes for both of those, one more or less, English, one more or less the patronyms. I'm not going to say Scandinavian because there's a whole lot of, it's the melting pot has melted.
Yeah.
And so you have the people who are scared of the paranormal stuff, and you have the people whose daily life it is, and you put them together. And I started to try to write a mystery story, and it wasn't a mystery, so it wound up being more of a milieu, and how are we going to get through this and back to.
That was part of what made that story very enjoyable to me to work on, is how that it evolved while we were working on it. And I was
Yeah.
really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, it turned out great. It was a beautiful story. It was very sad. I felt my heart hurt a little bit, but it ended up very sweet, and I really liked it. Um, and how is it like editing with like these sci-fi different names and things? Like how do you approach it with like
It's
sci-fi?
it's not anything different to me from any other setting or world. You just have to make sure they keep the name straight.
Yeah.
And you don't let people don't let their people move bodies like they can't move unless they're that kind of creature, then they can, of course. But Sharon always says she keeps telling me people can't do that with their arms. So no, but maybe some creatures can. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't, there's not any difference to me. You have to keep track of the details and keep everything straight. And you're building a believable world, no matter if it's here on Earth or somewhere else.
Hmm. For sure. Thank you. Um, Back to you, Adrian. Where did the saying never in anger come from? Is it like something mentioned in Spider's Word, or is it like completely new to this short story?
It's mentioned in Spider's Word, and it's part of a whole system that the people who happen to have a paranormal trait where they can extinguish another being's soul just with their mind. This is not it's not a popular trait. It's not one you would want to have. And at the time of this story, no one has found a use for it. In Spider's Word, it turns out that it's key to fighting a set of aliens that are in that. But at this point, no. And so the Soul Slayers have very strict protocols. They kind of keep each other honest. They're regular people, and Never in Anger just kind of came up out of, more of a use of deadly force agreement than anything else. What's going to be top of your mind all the time? Never in anger. Don't ever do that in anger. And so that it just became part of the culture.
That's cool. Was it like a saying that you kind of had like in the back of your head for a while, or did it just happen one day?
I think it just popped out. As I'm writing along, I'll sit down and go, I have no idea what I'm going to write. And you start, and suddenly the characters start doing stuff, and it's like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, I like it. It's a very, very simple saying, but I think it's very powerful. So I really like the meaning behind it. That's really cool. Um, Now to you, Joe. For Daniel in Distress, where did the idea initially come from for that? Like,
It was
was
just,
it
yeah, it was intended to be a play on damsel in distress.
okay?
So at the time I
Oh,
was
I
thinking about,
totally missed that.
oh yeah, yeah. So it's I wanted to come up with this idea for a superhero story, but from like a lesser character's point of view. So like a damsel in distress, do a role reversal. So Daniel is the boyfriend of a major superhero, and he gets kidnapped so often that he just becomes friends with all of the
With the
henchmen.
bad guys, yeah.
Yeah,
And he gets he just from their interactions, he can piece together parts of their plan. And so that was the whole premise that I started with.
okay. It kind of felt a little bit like an origin story. Is there gonna be more for that, or is it just kind of like
Yeah, I mean, I wrote it so that I could continue if people liked it.
okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know. Um, You also have very unique names for your characters, like Boss Babe and Kid Yeet are some of the funny ones in this story. How do you decide on the names of your characters, like especially the funny names?
Yeah, I just try to find something that hasn't been used before, or give somebody like a new twist. It's really difficult to come up with like new superhero
Superhero names,
anything
yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah,
Names, like what they can do. Yeah.
for sure. Well, um, is Daniel in Distress kind of like an origin story for Daniel, or like
Are you asking what happens at the end, or?
Daniel's off to
like
his life at the end, right? He's
yeah,
escaping
Well,
his new
I
life.
mean, yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of hope people caught what happened at the end, though. Like he changed.
yeah,
He did.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
he
it is.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like so.
yeah.
If I continued it, it would be from that point on, like his transformation.
okay, cool. Well, I'm excited to hear more about that because I was really entertained by Daniel in Distress. So, um, Marcus, you wrote Botanical Spirituals. Um, it seems very layered and like there was a lot that was inspiring it. What were like your inspirations behind Botanical Spirituals?
So first and foremost, I'm a poet, so I'm moving into this kind of from that perspective first. That Sharon started as a poet as well, so kind of moving into this space. I think I dragged a lot of that with me in terms of the layers and the nuance. A lot of the director's inspiration, like actually just comes from Conan stories and Warhammer 40K lore and things like that. I was also kind of inspired. It's kind of random, and I'm not sure how many people will understand the reference, but I was also inspired by um, what are called, and excuse me, but what are called circle jerk communities on Reddit. So these
Okay.
communities are basically like science fiction or fantasy fandoms, and they make meta memes or meta commentaries about the properties themselves, usually undercutting a lot of the rules or a lot of the social tensions involved in those properties to insert kind of slice of life jokes or kind of off kilter stories about smaller people within larger universes. So a couple examples are like, one recurring meme is where are the women in 40K? Where are the women in the Warhammer universe? And the response is you don't want to know what the women are up to in the Warhammer 40K universe. We're not looking there for a reason. We're focusing over here. And sticking with that same universe, that kind of grim, dank perspective, as they call it, a lot of the memes that kind of inspired my style of storytelling is, there's the a kind of a church, churches to different ideologies in Warhammer 40K, one of which has 10,000 to 40,000 candles that are lit at all times. And one of the jokes was like, is it somebody's job to keep those candles lit at all times? And it's yes, that is someone's job to keep those candles lit at all times. And in the grim dark future, if they fail, they die. So a lot of my stories are like, what is their day-to-day life like? Rather than focusing on the emperor or the hero, what is the day-to-day life of the guy who lights the candles? And what are some significant moments in the life of the guy who lights the candles, or the guy who's kind of swallowed up by the sci-fi machine, rather than the person who, changes it.
That's super interesting. That makes a lot more sense in context of botanical spirituals as well. I don't know much about Warhammer, but that's like super interesting to me, so I think I'm gonna look more into that. Um, the story also ends with like the character humming a song. Is that something that's like referencing Warhammer, or is it like a song that
No,
you?
not at all. I just really like sentimentality in storytelling, and music so easily hits at sentimentality. And I have a child coming up, and so there's all that, like you sing nursery rhymes to the baby, and everyone sings to their kids. So I thought it would be something kind of universal, because the story that I wrote, the character is nameless, the world is nameless. A lot of the things that I wanted people to resonate are things that are more core to character. So those things that are, desperation, really wanting to get home, having that end goal, singing to your children. I wanted to ping on things that are a little bit more sentimental. So that's kind of where the song comes from, is sentimentality. And originally I had some words down there, but I thought the humming would be a little bit more approachable for an audience, and they can hum it their own way. I didn't want to necessarily go full Inn of the Green Dragon, You can drink them by the ale, you can drink them by the wagon. It didn't really feel appropriate for my story. And it was also a layer of world building that I didn't want to provide in this world. I think everybody in this group is very conscious of, how much world building they add. Sometimes it can be a little bit too much. I kind of felt like whatever lyrics I might have chosen for that section, I would have spent more time editing those lyrics than the rest of the story, because they would have just provided so much context to the world. If I had chosen a classic rock song, now that dates it in a time where classic rock still exists. Do I choose some kind of electronic music genre? So I just kind of went for a generic humming. Like, even in the future, people still hum to their kids.
Yeah, that's sweet. I really like that. Well, thank you. Did you have like a tune or anything like in mind when you wrote like the humming, or is it just
Easy by the Commodores.
okay?
So just something super gentle.
Yeah.
So just some super gentle. I thought it was a contrast, such a harsh contrast to what this kind of character is going through, and kind of speaks to, because the character in the story is of course an addict, and the story is about the downfalls of that behavior on this alien world. But so it kind of speaks to, I guess, why people choose addiction in varying contexts, and kind of the peace that he was looking for and the peace that he lost in that moment. So that's kind of the tune. It's supposed to be gentle, like a Commodore's, and that's kind of why it's kind of hard to make M's and H's possible. So that's why I chose the M's and the H's. It'd be kind of hard to do, Slaughter to Prevail metal vocals as a reader with M's and H's. It doesn't read as so
yeah, for sure.
That's why I chose them.
I like it. That's super cool. Thank you again for your commentary. Bruce, we're back to you. You also wrote Acting Human.
Yes.
So I don't know if I missed it or something, but what kind of like creature are the sisters? At first I thought they were like some kind of siren or Medusa type creature. Is it like a mix of those two?
I don't know what kind they are. They are like sirens, but as evidenced by their long and bitey tongues, more like a combination of that and vampires.
Okay. Gotcha.
I'm not very specific about what they are, just that they are predators.
Yeah, they're hunters.
They're hunters, yeah.
Where did you get the line of like the idea of the pickup line, why don't we kill someone? And like the answer of why don't we kill someone?
Well, okay, it started, if you've heard the old joke about the hitchhiker gets picked up and the driver says, "Aren't you concerned that I might be a serial killer?" And the hitchhiker says, "Well, what are the odds that two serial killers would be in the same car?"
Yeah, right.
So that was the inspiration.
The inspiration, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of a guy by the name of John Locke. He writes trash, but he writes it really well. It's his pen name. Under his real name, he writes literary fiction that maybe 30,000 readers ever see. But under his name, John Locke, he writes mindless sex and violence set in Las Vegas. But the opening line to his book, Dangerous People, is from the point of view of an amoral assassin. And it's, "I like children and rarely find it necessary to kill them."
Okay.
So that's a hook that tells you what you need to know about the character. And I wanted a line that would start out with, "Okay, this is weird. And it's weird that it would be said to this guy who happens to be my paid assassin," basically.
Yeah. I like it. That story was also very funny. Not very funny, but it was pretty funny. Yeah. I laughed a couple of times. So it definitely was like a pivot going from, it felt like we were bouncing back and forth between sad and funny in a lot of these stories, but
That's why I
really
arranged them so that there would be a variety, always changing.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
it kind of, yeah. I liked how it was formatted because it kind of felt like it was like an emotional break between the really sad pieces. So I really liked how you'd organized it. I was wondering if you were the one that organized it like that. Thank you.
Yep.
Sharon, you wrote Willful Magic. It's a little bit creepy, it's a little bit angry, and it kind of ends on like a sweeter note. Do you have anything that like inspired you to write it? What brought it about?
I really just wanted to twist the story a little bit. A lot of times you start off with something that is sweet that turns sour. And I really wanted to kind of play with that idea of going the other direction, especially with this particular situation. So it starts as a revenge story, but it doesn't end as in the way that normal revenge stories end.
Yeah. You've been kind of like on a creepy story kick with Blood from a Rose and then now Willful Magic. Do you plan to explore the horror stories a bit more or?
Well, a lot of what I write short goes that direction. So when I write flash fiction, I can be, if you've read Blood from a Rose, there's one that starts with, that I drew inspiration from a vase of roses, just a bouquet of roses, and it goes dark really fast. We end up in the cemetery. There's just, all these, it just gets really dark really fast. But for some reason, a lot of what I write short does that. So when I go to write short, it goes dark. And I don't fight that. I just go with it. I kind of feel like since I write for kids a lot and I write a lot of other stuff that's much lighter, that's almost like a palate cleanser for the brain for me, is to get some of the dark stuff out of my system. So I just, when I write short, it just tends to go that way. And so this one started dark and ended a little differently. So it has that darkness to it, but it ends a little differently.
Sure. I thought it was really cute how she like just gradually pivots, kind of. It's like a gradual change, you can definitely tell. So I really liked the way you wrote it. It was really sweet.
Well, that's all about character arc, right? You're not going to buy it if there's no reason for the change. The change has to happen for reasons. There has to be causality and causation for the reaction in the character. And so definitely that's the way I wrote it, is to show that causality and that arc of change.
Yeah. Well, I think Bob ended up double booking himself, so I will most likely just reschedule with him and ask him his questions later. Um, but those were all of the questions I had for you guys. You guys answered them a lot faster than I thought you would. Um, is there anything anybody would like to tell us about your stories or any future works that you're working on?
Well, I know that go ahead, Anne.
I was going to say we're shy.
Yeah.
Well, I know that most of us are working on something for the next Future Words. So as far as short goes, most of us are working on something to contribute to that. Some of us are working on longer things and have some longer things in the pipeline. Uh, you know, I'd like to ask Anne about her experience with working with this array of writers and the diversity of the stories that she was asked to edit for this anthology.
I really enjoyed the variety. It was like I would read a story and then think, oh, this is my favorite so far. And then I'd read another one. Oh, I like this one too. And I'd read another one. Oh, this is really different. They're all strong in their own way. And it was enjoyable. It really was. I usually edit longer works, novel length, and I haven't done short stories in a long time. And it was a nice break. It was a nice change.
And when you were deciding to do the put them in the order that you did that take you a while to decide? Was that
No, it was strictly emotional response to the stories, and so I wanted there to be a constant change in the feelings for if the readers read from here to here, right straight through, that they would feel the changes. So I just arranged them that made sense the way it made sense to me.
I think it worked.
Yeah,
Now
Yeah.
I'm
I
kind
think
of
it works.
curious. How did each of our stories make you feel? If I could ask.
They're
I think
all
that might.
they're all very different. I was going to say yours, Marcus, there's a melancholy and a pain and a sorrow in that story. You can just feel it in this man, in how this man is interacting with his environment, his humming, his singing, his memories of his grandmother and his daughter. It's a heck of a touching story. It really is. And it was very strong. But they all had a different feeling. Some of them were funny and entertaining. Some of them were emotional. Like Sharon was saying, hers started out a revenge story, and it turned into a growth story for her main character, kind of a redemption story for her main character. And that, and just also with Adrian, hers started out with kind of a political social situation, and it ended up being very personal to the character. And I really enjoy it when things go in slightly different direction than it seems to be going in when you start the story.
I
So
think everybody did a
they were
good
all
job of that.
emotional in different ways. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else anybody would like to talk about? Alrighty. Well, thank you guys for letting me interview you.
Thank you.
This was fun for me. This was really interesting. I really like hearing you guys talk about your works, and I hope we get to do this again sometime soon. But I'll let you all go now.
All right.
Well,
Thank you.
thanks for
everybody.
doing
Bye.
this, Anna.
Thank,
Bye.
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye.